What's going on, guys? I'm gonna give you guys the top 5 best meta loadouts in Warzone 2, and we're gonna give you guys everything that you'll absolutely need. The best no recoil, the highest TTK, and the best thing is you guys can use everything right now. So we're gonna start out with the Cronin Squall. The Cronin Squall, in my opinion, is the best assault rifle in the game, and I think with the stats that have the high damage, the low recoil when you control it the way I'll show you, and everything in this build along with the tuning, this is the optimal AR to start out with. So put on the second tread 40 for the vertical and horizontal recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming stability. Set the tuning for recoil control at 0.28 inches and the recoil stabilization at 0.59 ounces. Don't change it beyond that just because it only gets worse. And here's the thing, for all of the tunings, this is literally the best you can possibly get them. If you go any further, it usually hurts the gun, so I would highly recommend avoiding going any further. HR 6.8 barrel for damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control and hip fire accuracy at the cost of aim down sight speed, hip recoil control, and movement speed. Set the tuning for damage range to 0.37 inches and the recoil steadiness to 0.39 pounds. I put on the MW2, and here's my tuning. I just maxed out the far distance. I put on the 50 round drum. If you put on 30, you'll have more movement speed, aim down sight speed, reload quickness, and sprint to fire speed, but I don't think that is worth it in my opinion, just because you won't have enough bullets to get the job done. 6.8 high velocity ammunition for bullet velocity at the cost of damage range. Tune the bullet velocity 8.71 GR in the damage range of 0.50 G. And here's the final product. Now here's the beautiful thing about this. This thing can have very little recoil if you control the recoil the right way. If you don't, this is what's going to happen. So if you want to control the recoil the right way, this is what you do. For long range, all you have to do is literally tilt down this way. I had to show you guys what ends up happening if you guys don't have it under control, but when you do, it's really that simple. Next, we're moving on to the ISO 45. This thing is officially the king of SMGs right now, and in my opinion, this is the best meta loadout with all of the tuning that you'll need. So, start out with the X10 RR40 for sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed, aiming stability. Set the bullet velocity at 0.68 inches and the recoil smoothness to 1.22 ounces. Next, we're putting on the VLK Laser 7 MW for aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed at the cost of the laser being visible in ADS, which is not honestly a big deal. Put the aim down sight speed to negative 31.26 feet, and since that is a very specific number, just try to get as close as possible. For sprint to fire speed, I set it to negative 0.24 ounces, 0.45 auto overpressured for no enemy skulls or target flinch, and target flinch. Set the tuning to 6.68 GR for bullet velocity and the damage range of 0.45 G. 45 round drum just because it's the best possible choice. Trust me, I don't think you want 12, and 30 is just not enough in my opinion. Next, you're going to put on the SK3 CHEETAH for sprint speed, crouch movement speed, aim walking speed, and aim down sight speed at the cost of aiming stability and recoil control. Tune the aim walking speed to negative 0.31 inches and the aim down sight speed to negative 1.16 ounces. And here's the final product. This thing has very little recoil, which is why I love it so much. Now, some people will actually just suggest using an iron, well, not an iron sight, but an optic. If you guys want to do that, it's completely up to you. One thing I absolutely love is just the camo on it as well. Like, this thing is just so beautiful. As you guys see, it's actually so aesthetically pleasing, if you guys see. So this is something that I highly suggest. You should be using this weapon, especially with the new health update, new TTK update. This is the best SMG in the game. But we're going to move on to some slightly off meta weapons, just because I know people don't want to just always use Cronin Squall, ISO 45. Like, that's something that does get tiring at times. So we have the good old MP5. Now, this was the meta in last season, and it can still be meta in this season if you use this build right here. X10 RR40 for sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming stability. Set the bullet velocity at 0.32 inches and the recoil smoothness to 0.90 ounces. MERC FOREGRIP for hip fire accuracy, recoil steadiness, hip recoil control, and aim walking steadiness at the cost of hip walking speed and aim down sight speed. Set the aim down sight speed to negative 0.28 inches and the hip walking speed to negative 0.54 ounces. 9mm overpressure for target flinch, 4.94 GR for bullet velocity, and 0.45 G for damage range. 40 round mag, and if you want to use 50, it's completely up to you. I just think that you want to have the pros as much as possible. VLK Laser 7 MW for aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed at the cost of the laser being visible in ADS. Set the tuning to negative 19.74 feet, or as close as possible, and negative 0.23 ounces for sprint to fire speed. And here is the beautiful end product right here. Does not take much effort to use, in my opinion. This is actually a fantastic short, medium, and long range with very little recoil. This is the thing you absolutely want to have, especially with the update. You can burst fire if you want to be a little more accurate, but this thing is just so amazing, and so many people are going to kind of overlook this weapon now, especially since the ISO 45 is out, but this is definitely the weapon you want to use, trust me. Next we have the beautiful Lockman 556. Has super low recoil and super high fire rate. We're going to start out with the Harbinger D20 for sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and aim walking speed. Set the bullet velocity at 0.55 inches and the recoil smoothness to 1.08 ounces. Then put on the 15.9 Lockman Wrap Barrel for bullet velocity, damage range, recoil control, and hip fire accuracy at the cost of aim down sight speed, movement speed, and hip recoil control. Set the damage range to 0.01 inches or just leave it alone, and set the recoil steadiness to 0.37 pounds. Put on the 5.56 high velocity rounds for bullet velocity at the cost of damage range. Set the bullet velocity at 8.42 GR and the damage range to 0.59 G. Put on the 60 round mag, just because this is going to run through bullets like crazy. You want as many bullets as possible. And the AIM-OP V4 or any optic of your preference. I set the far distance. And this thing is just so amazing. So little recoil, shoots incredibly fast, and just gets the job done. This is something that you definitely want to have at all ranges. It really is a very optimal AR, especially if you get a headshot. You guys see how fast it just gets the job done. So please put this in your arsenal. I think that you'll genuinely enjoy using it. But there is one more weapon that I would like to show you guys, and that is the MP7. I'm surprised not many people actually use the MP7. And it's surprising because this is actually one of the meta SMGs that I would highly recommend using. Especially if you don't have the ISO 45, you don't have the MP5 level all the way up. This is the first SMG that you actually unlock. So this is the best choice, well, best optimal gun that you'll most likely have leveled up. So sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming stability. This is the X10RR40. For the tuning, I set the bullet velocity 0.32 inches and the weight I did not touch. Put on the SCHLAGER L203 barrel for damage range, hip fire accuracy, and bullet velocity at the cost of aim down sight speed and hip recoil control. Put the damage range to 0.30 inches and do not change the weight once again. VLK laser 7 MW for aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed at the cost of laser being visible in ADS. I did not change the zeroing distance, but I set the sprint to fire speed to negative 0.37 ounces. Demo RXT stock for crouch movement speed, sprint speed, and aim down sight speed at the cost of recoil control. Set the aiming idle stability at 1.70 inches and the weight to negative 1.42 ounces for aim down sight speed. Last but not least, the SCHLAGER soldier grip for sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed at the cost of recoil control. Set the sprint to fire speed to negative 0.20 inches and aim down sight speed to negative 0.48 ounces. And this is the final product. This thing, absolutely beautiful. And as you know, what sounds so funny is this thing doesn't even sound menacing in the slightest bit. It just sounds like a pea shooter. But the beautiful thing about it is it shoots so fast and the range is actually very decent. So this is something that you should really have in your loadouts, especially if you guys want to try something off meta. This thing is so beautiful, and honestly, you'll get the job done at close range.